Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Brandon Middleton. I am the founder, visionary, and lead strategist of NOVAEO, and we are recruiting a e-commerce marketplace specialist. What we call in our lingo is PMP, public marketplace. So this would be defined as the stores that are ultimately owned by some, like giant business, so eBay, Walmart, etc., where you're competing with other merchants on there. So not your own hosted domain, not Shopify or anything like that. So for us, our two major platforms that we're on right now for PMPs would be eBay and Walmart. And then two smaller ones, much smaller ones that we're on are Etsy and Think Dirty. Probably never heard of Think Dirty. There's a little bit of extra strategy there. No worries on knowing too much about that right now. Now, technically Amazon by definition would be considered a PMP, but we do not, because like 95% of our revenue comes from Amazon, which is like 35,000 orders per month. And so we have that in like a whole separate bucket with a pretty large team managing all those seller accounts. So for this role, PMP, the initial primary focus is Walmart and eBay. And basically once we've developed all the systems and we're getting the absolute most that we could get out of those platforms, then we'll go into maximizing potential for Etsy and Think Dirty. And then once that's all set up, then we'll basically take a look and see what other because there's tons and tons of these platforms. We'll take a look and see what others we should get into, including even international ones. Well, international if you're an American. So I know like Southeast Asian market is blowing up right now, and there's plenty of platforms over there that we ought to be on. And actually what we have going on right now is we actually do currently have a PMP lead, but he's Mexican, lives in Mexico, and his major project that we just launched recently is what we call Latin American expansion. We're expanding ourselves heavily into Latin America, so much so that we're actually going to be building a warehouse in Mexico to service that market, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So his primary focus is Amazon Mexico, getting that started before it gets handed off to the Amazon team. And then Mercado Libre, which if you're not from Latin America, Mercado Libre is probably like the next largest e-commerce platform to Amazon, maybe in the world, possibly the world. So anyway, that's his primary focus. So basically we have our current PMPs as kind of being like on the back burner. So they're running, they're doing stuff. They've been doing stuff for a while now, but they don't have the attention that they ought to have in order to maximize the potential. And so that's where you come in. So again, the primary focus of your role for your first probably like several months is going to be to maximize all the systems, everything that we could be doing for Walmart and eBay. So what's that going to include? Content management, of course. Now, we do have designers and copywriters on the team, but the reality is that for PMPs, it really would be best if you're capable of producing at least some of the assets yourself so that you can be constantly split testing. It's going to create a little bit of communication overhead and accountability overhead if you're needing to work with the like very skilled content creators just for like doing little tweaks. And of course, we already have a lot of assets, digital assets produced that might just need to get tweaked like for like technical specifics in order to move them into these other platforms. So ideally you come with a little bit of ability to use like various AI tools like ChatGPT and such. And you're able to at least like tweak the content to run split testing. So split testing will be something that we'll be asking you to do on these platforms, which is not something that we have been doing. We kind of just like moved everything, all our assets over, and it's just kind of like, okay, do what you can. Another major thing that we really need you to come with experience in is PPC management, so advertising management. Ideally, you have experience specifically in Walmart and eBay PPC. If you do not have that specifically, then some platform very similar would also, I think would translate quite well, like Amazon PPC experience. I don't really know the platform's PPC that well. I assume kind of like, so, the ideal is having eBay and Walmart PPC experience. If you don't have that, then it's a platform that's very similar, like Amazon, something like that. If you don't have that, then we would need you to, at the very least, this would be a requirement, have like search ad experience or social media ad experience and running those campaigns in full. So if you don't have that, then I'm sorry, like this won't be a good fit at this time, because we need someone to come in, get that going fully autonomously. None of us on the team have done that before, so no one to really help out, and we really want you to have that experience. Okay, so another skill that we want you to have, or an ability, which, well, let me back up and explain our strategy, our purpose of these PMPs. Now, obviously, yes, we want profitability and revenue and all that stuff coming from these, and but the reality is like that will never amount to, you know, like what Amazon can do and what Shopify can do. So even if we just get like 5 to 10% of our sales coming from PMPs, then that would be a huge win. So the other purpose that we have for the PMPs, well, there's a couple. One is just like brand recognition. So by being on these platforms, some of those listings might show up in like Google searches, you know, organically. So that's one of our purposes. And then another one is actually, if we're not on those platforms selling our own products, then someone else is going to be on those platforms selling our products through retail arbitrage. And sometimes that can get pretty dirty. It can generate bad relationships with our brands because we're not the ones that are navigating those relationships with the customers. Someone else is. It can create bad reviews. There's a host of, like a plethora of different things that can go wrong with that. So part of it is just to keep retail arbitrageurs away from our brands. But another major thing is basically the list building that comes from it. So when people buy from us on those platforms, we want to capture the emails and whatever contact information we can get from those customers and move them into our lists that we will then actually try to get them to transfer for future purchasing on Amazon, because we have a lot of strategy that relates to trying to maximize our sales on Amazon. So that's going to be a huge part of it. So what that also means is ideally you come with a skill set of being able to set up auto emails on these platforms, not just the technical side of setting them up, but even creating the content. Because each platform has, you know, it's not like creating a MailChimp email or something like that. It's typically more simple, but you're more limited in what you can do. You know, you're using like their formatted emails, and maybe you're only able to enter like a little text box or something like that. So we'd be looking for you to have the ability to set those up, the ability to split test different content, understanding that the purpose of those emails is to get the customer to contact us back so that we can then move them into our lists that we're then going to start promoting our Amazon stores to. So we would be asking you to split test different ideas. So you need to be able to do data analysis and interpretation in order to be able to make decisions on, you know, what's working, what's not working, try something new, compare that to the previous baseline, et cetera, et cetera. So that's going to be something that we really need you to have, and I'd like for you to talk a little bit on. In fact, everything I'm saying right now, we're going to be asking for you to do a video reply back to us. Sometimes we do that in the first round of reply back to us. Sometimes it's in the second round. So if you're not seeing it in this initial back and forth, then do know that we will be asking you to do a selfie video where you're going to be really communicating with confidence. Basically communicating your confidence that you're the right fit for us, and also asking us any questions that you might need for context in order for you to provide the best application possible. And also to know that if we're a good fit for you. Okay, so yeah, the auto emails for lead generation. And here's a really, really unique one that we're pretty much the only business that I know that's doing this. So because we own, if you haven't seen any videos on this yet, we own somewhere around like 10 health and wellness product brands, and it's in our overarching business strategy where we're going to continue building a portfolio of product brands. You know, eventually we'll get to 20 and then maybe even eventually 50. And we're calling it our brand farm. The idea is that we build this cookie cutter template for launching a brand, continually expanding the product line over time for each brand, scaling them up, and exiting them after some amount of time, probably around like 3 years, for 7-figure exits. And then every time we have an exit of a brand, you know, we sell the brand as a whole, then there'll be a nice bonus paid out to the entire team. We'll reserve a percentage of those exits for the entire team, and then reinvest a good chunk of it to continue scaling our systems and our reach. So that's a important piece of context. And in addition to that, we do our own manufacturing, which means we are importing, tons and tons of raw materials, whether it's like packaging materials or raw ingredients for our cosmetic products, or raw ingredients for our dietary supplements, or whatever it is. And so we're warehousing these large stockpiles of these raw ingredients and packaging materials, as well as we have these relationships with these bulk suppliers, such that they're willing to drop ship to any business clients that we have. So not only are we selling our what we call our Phoenix brands, all of those direct-to-consumer based brands, but we also sell to business clients the raw materials. So that could look like, for example, selling, 10,000 empty plastic jars to someone. Or it could be, from one of our biggest movers is we have Healthy Sweetener brand. And so in there is monk fruit powder. So we buy monk fruit powder by the metric ton. And so we have eBay listings set up for 50 plastic jars, 500 plastic jars, 5,000 plastic jars, 5 kilograms of monk fruit powder, 25 kilograms of monk fruit powder, 1 metric ton of monk fruit powder. And we aren't really, we kind of just started doing this, although it's an old strategy that I used to do years and years ago, and we're just kind of getting back to it. So we haven't really fully invested ourselves in really maximizing the potential of this on eBay, but this is actually a huge, huge, huge potential value for us, that this focus of using eBay for B2B lead generation. And I don't expect anyone to have any experience doing that, but I want to get a feel that you would have basically the understanding of the strategy and the ability to curate the listings, the content of the listings in line with the strategy of, ideally someone comes to eBay, looking for bulk, say monk fruit powder, which there's a lot of businesses do this, by the way, smaller businesses, but still like decent size enough for us. So they'll come looking for monk fruit powder, and it is cool if they buy 100 kilograms of monk fruit powder directly from our eBay listing. But see, when they do that, we don't get to relationship build with the client because we're not in contact with them. We miss the opportunity to upsell or cross-sell. We may or may not get their contact information to focus on the lifetime value of that client. I guess that's kind of relationship management. And the obvious that eBay takes a pretty significant chunk of that. So in actuality, what our ideal situation is, we curate the listings in a way that, we have to be careful of TOS, terms of service, but basically curate the listings in a way where there's a nice hint that this potential client, this lead, contacts us directly, so we can get off eBay and work with the client off eBay, and therefore pass them to our sales team, our B2B sales team, which would be a totally different, we have a sales team, totally different realm, totally different responsibility. So a big part of this PMP role, to summarize the purposes again, purposes, word sounds funny. So yes, of course, the profit and the revenue generated just directly from the sales, but and yes, it's to keep the retail arbitragers away from our brands, but it's the list building, the lead gen for just the consumers, so that we can then move them into our Amazon marketing strategies, and then specifically for eBay. This isn't for Walmart or the other platforms, but specifically for eBay, the B2B list building or lead gen. Yeah, makes sense? So I'm going to be asking some questions that just make sure that you're on the same wavelength, that you're capable of producing those listings, the listing content, tweaking stuff, that kind of thing. Yeah. All right. Let me take a quick pause here and see what else you might need to know in order to perfect your job application with us. Okay, cool. Yeah, something else that we need to make sure that you know how to do and what you're aware of, what this role is going to require, is in total, we're probably managing somewhere around 150 to 200 overall listings per platform. because of all the brands plus the wholesale bulk listings that I mentioned for eBay. So we need to make sure that you, A, have a good understanding of various third-party platforms, like tools that are out there to make the overarching role a lot easier. Because ultimately, one person should have no problem managing all of this. And so if this is sounding like a lot to you, I mean, it's not that it's a little, but if it's sounding like it'd be overwhelming, then you probably don't have the understanding of how to be managing tons and tons of listings on these platforms. So you need to be able to do things like flat file uploads, but really even through like third-party platforms would be better. If you're jumping into each listing, unless you're doing something very specific on a very specific listing, like because it's getting good traffic and you want to really focus on that listing, but if you're making changes that are gonna go, like you're changing like the brand banner or something like that, you need to know how to apply, to do those tweaks in like 15 minutes to all 100 plus listings. So yeah, a question that we're gonna ask probably in the written questions is all of the various third-party tools that would relate to your role here, like which ones are you familiar with? That'd be really important. Okay, let me see what else. Oh yeah, we always ask about ancillary skills that you might have. If you're a marketer, for a long time, you probably have worked in, not just these PMP platforms, but other stuff as well, and that's fantastic. If you have ancillary, if you have ancillary skills, definitely talk about those. But do understand that, like if we're going to be running search ads, like Google search ads or Bing ads, if we're going to be running social media ads, if we're doing like blogs for SEO purposes that are going to funnel traffic somewhere, we're never going to be funneling that traffic to the PMPs. Again, it's either going to be going to, pretty much we always want our traffic right now going to Amazon. Eventually we're going to start moving into Shopify a little bit harder. But so in any of your questions where you're talking strategy, or any of your replies where you're talking strategy, we don't want you to think in terms of, okay, how am I going to grow the eBay store? Well, I'm going to be running Google ads in order to send traffic to the eBay store. The only situation where that might make a little bit of sense is if we're targeting keywords with eBay in it. So like the customer specifically wants to buy on eBay, so they're typing into Google search like monk fruit eBay. You know what I mean? If they're just typing like buy monk fruit, then we want that traffic to go elsewhere. So do understand that that's pretty important. A lot of our applicants in the past for these roles, they miss the point of the focus is what can you do from within the platforms themselves, not what can you do from outside the platform. But if there is something, like if you should by now, 18 minutes into this, have a pretty good understanding, decently enough, of our overarching strategy. So if there is something that I might be missing or whatever, then go ahead and talk about that. But in general, we want our traffic going not to the PMPs, our outside traffic, our external traffic, not going to the PMPs, but going elsewhere. All right, let's see what else I come up with. Hold on. Okay, yeah, I guess the last thing I had to touch on really is, again, eBay specific. So, what I didn't mention about the eBay B2B stuff is, and this is really important, to stress the importance of that side of eBay. Overall, getting those B2B leads from eBay will have more profitability than all of our brands selling on all of the PMPs combined. I know this from past experience. We got away from it when I basically sold my last business, and then we've been setting up this new business over the past few years, and this just isn't something that we've gotten to until just recently, but we've only kind of started the rolling of the ball. We're not really going hard at it. So I really want to reiterate how valuable that side of this role ultimately is. And you're not having to manage the sale process yourself. We have a sales team, a B2B sales team. You're just creating the content that's almost, think of it like an ad. It basically is an ad. And you have to be able to creatively, within eBay's terms of service, convince the customer to contact us. Even better if they contact us outside of eBay, because we're going to eventually have to get them outside of eBay. But at least contact us in eBay messaging, and then we can finagle them to get them off eBay. It's also important to note that we have a full-time customer service team, 24/7. So you would not have to be handling the customer service of these platforms. It's just the the account management of the platforms, the content, and basically you're focused on all the various purposes that I mentioned before. All right. So yeah, the last thing I wanted to mention is with regards to eBay specifically, there are so many little tips and tricks and hacks for eBay, like how to get better ranking and stuff like that. So if you have eBay experience, share what you know about all that stuff. I know a lot, and it's the same stuff. I came up with stuff like 12 years ago, and the same stuff back then still works today. And again, we're not really doing a whole lot of it because our focus has been elsewhere. But with you joining the team, we want to bring that full attention and make us get the full potential of the opportunity that these platforms have to offer. All right. So I'm pretty sure that's it. That's all that's really coming to my mind. Obviously, I don't script this stuff. It's all in here somewhere. No need to script. So sorry for a little bit of the chaos in the way I communicate. But if you have any questions at all, like at all, before you fill out the questions and stuff like that, if you need more context or anything like that, then don't hesitate to ask. We're really fast at responding. All right. Well, almost 22 minutes. I appreciate your time watching this. Hopefully this sounds really exciting. We really grateful for your time and effort in applying with us, and we look forward to hearing from you. All right. Peace.